This summer I spent my time interning with Pittsburgh's professional soccer team, the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. They practice and play at Highmark Stadium down in downtown Pittsburgh. It runs right up against the Monongahela River. And there was a total of 4 interns for this internship for the Riverhounds. Myself and one other girl were the communications intern. There was another girl who was the marketing intern, and then there's another guy who was a graphic design intern. And sometimes we all worked together, but most of the time it was all individual work. And of course, with COVID, we were all forced to work remotely throughout the entire summer. So throughout the presentation, I'm going to talk about kind of how and why I chose this specific internship, my main responsibilities and duties, the actual work that I did while I was interning with them, and then some of my final thoughts and kind of recap about my experience this summer. And I decided to include this picture because, as you can see, it's from February, so this is kind of before the whole COVID outbreak became a real thing that we have to live with now. And this was just an email from Tony Picardi. He is the director of communications, my boss for the internship. It's just an acceptance email saying that I got the job, the spot was open for me if I wanted it, and obviously I did take that. So how and why I came into this internship. It started with, the first step was my mom was on Facebook and saw that the Riverhounds have posted internship applications, and she showed it to me, and kind of immediately I knew that I wanted to apply to it, and I figured it would be a great place for me to start my professional career. And going off of that, my love of soccer came into play with the decision as well. I started playing when I was 3 years old up until I was a senior in high school, where I had to retire in order to focus on schooling here at Waynesburg. And I paid attention to the Riverhounds for the past couple of years, and when I was about 9 or 10, their home field was actually my high school's home field, so from a young age I was kind of engaged with them already. And then the big part of it was my experience that I gained from my first 2 years here at Waynesburg. I did a lot of in front of the camera, behind the camera, on radio, working the board, play-by-play announcing, writing for the newspaper. So I did a ton of stuff here, and I felt that I was, even only going into my junior year, I felt that I was ready to take my skills and experience to a professional level with a professional soccer team, as I did with my internship. And then going into my interview, the interview was actually the only time I stepped foot inside of the stadium, because it was all the way back in January before all the Corona stuff became a real problem. My interview was done by the assistant director of communications, Justin McCauley, because Tony, the guy who sent that email, was sick, and now thinking about it, he might have had COVID, because it was before it was really a big thing, but he recovered fine, and he was perfectly healthy. But going into my interview, I dressed well, I think I looked good, I think I answered the questions well, and I felt when I went into the interview I had the job before I even sat down to talk to Justin, because of all my experience that I have done at Waynesburg so far. And then during the interview, I could tell that he really loved everything that I threw out to him, of everything I do as far as working for the TV station, radio station. I told him I was going to be producing a show this semester, which unfortunately didn't happen. But when I was going through all the things that I did here on campus, you could just tell by his facial expressions and body expressions that he was really interested and kind of excited that I was there interviewing for that internship position. And then the main reason why I wanted to do an internship in between my sophomore and junior year was trying to figure out my future a little bit more. Because coming in, I knew that I was going to have a lot of things to do here at Waynesburg, different dimensions of the sports media field. And with this internship, I was hoping to see what it's like from a professional standpoint and kind of anchor down on what I want to do whenever I grow up and graduate. And some of my main responsibilities and duties, first and foremost, the main responsibility was creating content for their website and social media. Since we were forced to work remotely, pretty much all I could do was write and do some stat keeping type of stuff before. There's going to be a lot of recording games, practices, making highlight tapes, interviewing players and coaches, stuff like that, but unfortunately I wasn't able to because I worked from my laptop in my house the whole summer. So I'll get into more about the written articles in the next slide, but as far as the stats go, a couple stat keeping things I did. The picture on the bottom, that's the lineup and scoring summary, that's what they call it. It's a lot of specific detail that goes into it. So whenever I had the chance to do this for the games, I would have to get the lineups. And for example, for the Riverhounds, it starts with the goalie, and then you have to separate each player, going left from right, from the defense all the way up to the offense. So that's a little tedious thing that I had to do within there. The scoring summary, you just put in the team, who scored and what minute it came in. The misconduct summary, same thing, a team, player, what minute, and then either if it was caution for a yellow card or a ejection for a red card. So it's kind of pretty specific, and you don't want to make any errors because you don't want to have to make them edit it for you. And another huge thing was following deadlines. In the sports media world, following deadlines is very important, whether it's you're going on air on the radio at 10 a.m., this commercial has to play at 5 o'clock, or in my case, when I'm writing articles, for example, if it was a preview, obviously it has to come out before the game because it previews the game coming up. So meeting deadlines was very important there. I always submitted my stuff on time, or usually early, just to get it out of the way and to impress my boss a little bit. Be responsive to messages was another big thing because we were forced to work remotely. It was a lot of emailing and texting, and those are just some examples of me and Tony texting back and forth. He would text me and say, hey, can you write this preview? It's due Friday at noon. I say yes to everything because I wanted to maximize my time there and get more experience where I could. And then either he would text me with some suggestions or advice, or I could ask him questions, and he would always answer no matter what time or what day it was. Tony was very responsive to myself, and I was always responsive to him. So I was thankful that he was very interactive. Another big thing was following along with the team. It wasn't necessary to watch every game or dig deep into stats after every game, but I would always watch the games when I could. I would always read other people's articles to either see their writing style, their point of view, and see if they found something interesting that I couldn't find. I would always look into stats and headlines about the teams because following the team made the job a lot easier because you could write the articles more efficiently, and it was just easier if you know everything about the team. Like here at Waynesburg, I'm friends with a bunch of people on the sports teams. It's a small campus. You can, word of mouth gets around about what's going on with the teams, but working at a professional level, you got to do a lot of your own research and digging into information. Now the articles, my main job was writing articles for the team, and 3 main articles were previews, recaps, and 3 things. Previews and recaps I've written before here on campus for basketball team, soccer team, volleyball. So I already had some experience with that, but again, on a professional level, you have to step it up, make less errors, and have better content. So the previews were the most common that I did. It's just info about the upcoming game, find something interesting to draw readers in to make them want to watch the game. Recaps, recap, summary of what happened after each game. And this required to watch the whole game, so if I got assigned a recap, I would watch the entire game because unlike a Waynesburg recap, you would have to write about the things that weren't in the stat sheet. Like for example, if the goalie made a great save or if someone made a great pass that didn't result in a goal, that's something you want to write about, that if people didn't watch the game, they can read the recap and kind of get the picture in their own mind about what happened. And then the 3 things articles, this was my favorite to do. It's the most fun. I think it allowed the most to be the most creative. It's kind of like a preview to watch for what's the next coming game, but the 3 things is you want to find really cool stats or headlines or milestones that would occur that you could write in there to make people not only watch the game but be interested in the team and follow along for the rest of the season. You come up with 3 creative headlines, which is my favorite part because I think that's what really draws readers in, and I had the most fun doing the 3 things based off of how creative I could be and use my own skills. I kind of recap on the internship. I think it would have been better in person. I feel like all of us feel that way as well. Being on the field would have been a better experience. However, I think it was a great internship for me, and I think it did provide me a little bit of entryway and better thinking of what I want to do after I graduate. It definitely improved my writing skills because I haven't taken a writing class before this internship, so I think the internship definitely helped with my sports writing class now, and definitely for the future self helps me. I was good with video and being on camera, but now being a good writer I think also is going to help me a bunch in the future. Thank you guys for all coming out. I really enjoyed all your presentations. I hope you enjoyed mine, and I enjoyed working with all you guys throughout the semester. Thank you.
Okay, questions from the group?
You mentioned that you wanted to kind of use this internship to give yourself more clarity on what you want to do in the future. Do you think, like what did this tell you about your future goals now? Like, what did you take from this internship?
Before, I wasn't too sure about like the writing aspect of sports media, but I think after doing this internship, I did have a lot of fun. Even though it was remotely, I did have a lot of fun writing these different type of articles and finding different types of information. So I think the fact that I enjoyed doing this will, if there's any sort of job that includes writing or needs a proficient writer, I think I'd feel comfortable with myself in doing something like that.
How about access to players? Did they give you much access to players?
Myself, I didn't have any access. Like if I wrote a recap, he told me just write the story, like recap what happened, and then he would throw in quotes from players and coaches, so they kind of took care of the quote parts. There was times where I emailed some of the other coaches to get information to make bios, but as far as like players and after game stuff, I didn't do any of that. I just wrote all the articles and then they filled in the quotes.
Yeah, we did that a lot, even well before COVID. Stuff we used to call it quote insert. Somebody would write the raps and then somebody would be responsible for the quotes, and that was their sole job, was to get the quotes and insert them.
That was one thing I think would have made it better if we were actually at the field, me talking to the players or coaches myself, but unfortunately I couldn't do that.
Down the road. Down the road.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, round of applause. Thank you very much.